There is bread, bigger than your head in the store, in the store. There is bread, just like lumps of lead in the quartermaster's store.
With many miserable miles behind her and no money in her pocket, she did not like this feeling of being poor. With her family, she had travelled to the side of this clear, calm French lake in the mountains. She had a hope locked inside of her heart that they would all be safe and as far away from the war as they could be. The summer's afternoon sun was rising in the sky 2 years after the war had begun. Perhaps, she thought, the sun couldn't see this war below it, or it would have hidden its face behind the clouds until this madness is ended. Each weary footstep of the journey here had caked more mud upon her skin, and the sight of this water in front of her made her forget that she was a refugee from the city and the sound of guns and bombs. She was woken from her dismal thoughts by the sound of the rain falling on the lake. Perhaps the sun had heard her thoughts and was hiding its shameful face behind the small summer clouds above her. The rain was splashing on the surface of the lake, and it seemed to be boiling and bubbling, calling to her. She could feel this calming rain soaking into what was left of her ragged, best and only dress. Her mother and father had given her strict instructions as to where she could and could not go. She could hear her father's deep voice inside of her head. "Do not go too far away from the rest of us." She had nodded. "If you see something strange, do not make a noise. Hide, and we will find you." She had nodded again. But now, ignoring everything that she had been told, she found herself swimming in the water of the lake. She did not mind that it was still filled with the last of the winter meltwater, and anyway, what difference does it make? The soldiers are far away. They won't bother with this piece of land so far away from the cities. She also comforted herself with the thought that she was getting wet anyway in the rain, so why not swim? She was a good swimmer, a strong swimmer, and this was an opportunity too good to refuse. If nothing else, it was the first chance that she had had to take a wash. When she stood on the bank and dried herself as best as she could with the tatters of her dress, she felt the way that she had done before the war had started. She felt clean and happy and almost without care. It was, as she stood there, her skin still prickling from the icicle cold water, that she took great lungfuls of air and could smell food. Fine sausages, fat sausages, fine, round, fat, juicy sausages. This was something that she had not known these 2 long, hungry years. She had already defied her parents by going away from them and the rest of her family, so what difference would it make if she were to go and see where there could be the chance of food? She could not stop herself. It was as if the smell would drive her mad if she did not find out where it was being cooked. Just to see them cooking would be enough, she lied to herself. She knew she was not going to be satisfied until she had them on a plate in front of her. She was clean, she was poor, she was tired, but most of all she was a hungry refugee and desperate to have something to eat, and the smell of the food drew her further away from her family. Sneaking like a snake, she crept between the tall trees that lined the side of the lake. Stumbling at first, she made sure that she did not make a sound on all of the leaf litter and twigs that lay on the ground, and it was then that she saw them. A small ragbag brigade of men, soldiers hiding in amongst the trees. They looked almost as dirty as she did. They looked tired and weary, but at least they had food. Her father had told her about the traps and tripwires that hunters and soldiers would lay to catch and kill unsuspecting animals and curious young girls. When she saw it, she forgot about all of her nodding at her father's stern warnings, and she screamed like a wounded animal. It was a wire, a thin, colourless wire, buried in the dead leaves at her feet, and she could see it was attached to a grenade's pin, ready to kill these soldiers so far away from home, and she had almost stepped through it. Her heart was beating and her mind was battered by all of the consequences, all of the what-ifs and what could have happened if she had taken just one more step. The searing noise of a screaming that split the silence was noticed by the sentry, who had been temporarily distracted by the thought of food. His gun was drawn and ready to take the enemy down with a single shot. His trigger finger was ready, and it was only his training, only his iron-willed discipline that stopped him from shooting her where she stood. She had been trying to get closer to the food, and now she was raising her hands and looking down at her feet. He barked at her. "Who are you? Friend or foe?" She wanted to say that she did not understand. She did not know if he were German or English, Canadian or Belgian. All she knew was he was not French. She really didn't care where they came from. She just knew that she did not want them to get hurt. "Who are you? Friend or foe?" His voice had calmed a little. With tears streaming down her face, she stammered, "Attention! Attention, monsieur! Attention, monsieur! Grenade!" It might have been a foreign language to him, but he could sense her fear and his danger. With the tip of his pistol, he indicated that she should step back carefully. "Lower your hands, missy." She did not know what he was saying, so he lowered his gun. "Lower your hands, missy, and walk backwards the way you came." He had holstered his gun and was using his hands and pointing. "That's it. Good and slow. And we'll get you away from this little bit of a German grenade." The noise of her screaming had made the rest of the men look towards them and start to move away from the cooking fire and the food. The sentry shouted out over his shoulder to them, "It's all right. It's just a girl who's a bit lost." Dominique shrugged her shoulders and showed that she had no idea about what he was saying, but his voice was as calming as the lake's gentle lapping behind her. The tallest of all of the men, with an officer's cap and bearing, took in the situation in a single glance. His voice was filled with kindliness and nobility. "You're a good girl. You've saved us all." She still had no idea about what he was saying. All of the men were gathering around, pointing at the tripwire, the grenade and the girl. She wished that she had listened to her father and had not wandered off, but the officer spoke again. "These are dangerous times, and we're grateful for your help, little lady." He shouted over his shoulder for someone to disarm the grenade and replace the pin. "What can we get for you as a reward?" She still looked at him. His face seemed to screw up in pain as he tried to recollect the few smatterings of French he still had. He pointed at her. "Vous?" She nodded. "Oui." She nearly smiled. "A present. Un cadeau." She nodded again. "Oui." All the while the men were watching, and one of them could see that Dominique was staring towards their fire and the sausages. The men all started to rub their bellies and pretend that they were eating food. Sir, I think she's hungry." The officer looked at her again. He had had enough time to trawl his memory for his schoolboy French. "Would you? Voulez-vous un cadeau?" This time she could not stop herself from smiling. "Well, would you believe it? She wants our bleeding sausages," said one of the men. Dominique was feeling bolder now, and there is not much difference between the English sausages and the French saucisses. She was really animated now. "Oui, oui!" She was pointing at the frying pan. "Les saucisses! Look, les saucisses, s'il vous plaît!" "Men, give her all the food she wants. Better for us to be hungry than dead. This girl is our saviour." The officer was laughing now, and the men were all clapping her on the back and shaking her hand. They gave her more food than the whole of her family had eaten in 3 months. Enough for the whole of her family, father, mother, sister, and brother. When she lived after the Great War, she would always tell her children and her children's children how she had saved some English soldiers by the side of a lake where the water was so clear, and all because of some sausages.
There is bread bigger than your head in the store, in the store. There is bread just like lumps of lead in the quartermaster's store. My eyes are dim, I cannot see. I have not brought my specs with me. I have not brought my specs with me. There is steak, tough as cattle cake in the store, in the store.